r/ask Reddit. What strange events have gotten swept under the rug like they didn't even happen? Starting last summer, there have been unidentified snipers taking out random cars on different parts of I-10 in New Orleans, and nothing has come of it and nobody's really talking about it. I mean, gang and drug violence, neighborhood drive-bys and the occasional bourbon shooting are one thing to ignore, but interstate snipers? Nobody finds that interesting? It's still happening. In 2020, New Orleans saw an average of 2 interstate shootings per month. And on the 12th of January, a news release from the New Orleans Police Department detailed more than 30 interstate shootings in the Crescent City in 2021. 6 days later, they added 4 more victims to their list, just before 3 p.m. on Jan. 18. A Tuesday, a sniper killed 34-year-old Whitney Watts as she traveled eastbound on Interstate 10. Police realized something was amiss when the victim's black car crashed into a guardrail at the Crowder Boulevard exit in New Orleans East. The coroner found Whitney's assailant shot her multiple times. Earlier that morning, another I-10 gunshot hit a man on Michoud Boulevard, and the Saturday morning before that, Jan. 15. The interstate sniper killed a 52-year-old man and wounded a 45-year-old woman on I-10 at Esplanade Avenue. Ironically, the United States' most infamous highway snipers killed only 7 people. Far less than the multitude of attacks recounted here. If NOPD can connect even half of these shootings, the wound count of this new I-10 sniper surpasses that of the D.C. Beltway snipers. What the duck? It's got to be the rate at which people are being killed, cause when the DC snipers went on their rampage, it was all the news would talk about. The DC snipers sent ransom demands to the press, demanding millions to stop. I assume these people have not been communicating. From the last time this was asked, Equifax lost the personal data of almost every single adult in the US. This is data we didn't give them permission to access. They simply automatically collect it. They are still in business. In September of 2017, Equifax announced a data breach that exposed the personal information of 147 million people. That's out of roughly 210 million adults at the time. That's 70% of the adult population whose data was lost. That's more than likely every single household in the US. Glad they gave me a discount on a service to protect me from identity theft tests. Can't even make that bullshit up. Literally give away all your information then try and charge you for a service to protect your identity. WTF. You can have credit monitoring or some money. Well, I already have credit monitoring through some of my cards, so I'll take the money. Oh, well, we don't have enough money for everyone, so you get nothing. On November 2, the Fed decided that foreign individuals, corporations, and governments can fund ballot measures in the US because they are not technically elections. This is a staggeringly big deal that was pretty much immediately swept under the rug. I mean, they let Zuckerberg drop absolute bank on funding ballot measures operations. Over $420. 000 and ongoing investigations are looking into its influence legality. Either open it up so we have shitty elections or shut down outside funding so we don't have billionaires trying to sway different electorates. Seriously? That's so much worse than Citizens United. In my hometown there was some sort of audit and it found that $8 million of taxpayer money was missing. It's a conspiracy now. Edit. All the Reddit attention got me interested in this situation again. Here's a link. https://www.26538538,929/ Duncan audit finds millions in misspent funds /7 million spent on life insurance policies for employees. Where I live, a very well-known green and gold tractor company stuck their multi-million-dollar expansion tax bill on the people of the small town, and they got away with it. My taxes went up $800 that year and only went down $300 the next. I hate that green and gold tractor company. If people only knew how scummy that company really is. Edit to add, thank you for all your upvotes. I made this comment at 3 AM never thinking it would go anywhere. I did not name John Deere outright because they just annoy me for many reasons. This happened in Horicon, their founding town. This town is so deeply run by them it's gross. The taxes are outrageous for a town that has nothing. They block a lot of potential growth. Everyone thinks they are such a good company, but they are far from. They are only good if it's for their own gain. This reminds me of the time the US government gave a few internet providers an aston of taxpayer dollars to expand internet infrastructure and quality, and they just kinda kept it. A link for those interested: tips, New Networks, ComShort Scandal Summary, HTM Edit. Thanks for all the replies. It's almost like we need to hold our representatives and the thieves that steal from us accountable, isn't it? T.I. open bracket, rapper, and his wife have serially drugged and raped over 30 victims, according to 30+ allegations. If you Google T.I., it doesn't even come up unless you specifically search for it. Haven't heard about this, but it's not far-fetched. The same creep who bragged about routinely getting his daughter's hymen checked to ensure she's still a virgin. That poor girl, if they proudly made that public. I don't wanna even think about what secrets they keep private. Not just getting it checked, but going with her to do it, and continued to do so at least until she was 18 years old. Asked on the Ladies Like Us podcast about sex education for his children, he said, "Not only have we had the conversation, we have yearly trips to the gynecologist to check her hymen. Yes, I go with her. I will say, as of her 18th birthday, her hymen is still intact." He acknowledged a woman's hymen can be broken outside of sexual activity, but counted by saying, "So then they come and say, well, I just want you to know that there are other ways besides sex that the hymen can be broken, like bike riding, athletics, horseback riding, and just other forms of athletic physical activity." So I say, look, doc, she don't ride no horses, she don't ride no bike, she don't play no sports, just check the hymen, please, and give me back my results expeditiously. https://www.theguardian.com/2019/nov/07/t rapper daughter hymen outrage, such a creepy, possessive ducker. The leader of Scientology's wife vanished after an argument in 2005. Nobody knows what happened to her. Just sign this waiver, saying that you have seen Debbie Stoffelman, and that she is happy, healthy, and alive. Edit. It's an affidavit, not a waiver, but the joke still stands. Boom boom. In my hometown, the police chief was accused of having sexual relations with an underage girl. The father of the girl was one of the officers on the force. He was later found dead near the property of the chief. People believe he was there to confront the chief about the relations. 9/11 happened, and the attention of the public got focused on the nation's tragedy. He is now the mayor. This sounds awfully like Fresno. Was thinking the same thing. Even has 559 in his username. The Metcalf sniper attack. Some unknown gunman utilizing military tactics attacked a California power substation under cover of night. The attack included cutting targeted telecommunication lines beforehand. As far as I've ever been able to tell, they never figured out who did it or why. Or they did make arrests and the media didn't bother to follow up. 60 Minutes just did a story on this, in the context of a larger vulnerability to the power grid. Apparently destroying as few as 5 substations could cripple the entire grid. That is true, but also misleading. It would have to be the 5 specific substations, in the right order, at the right time with the proper timing between them. Nothing works very well if you systematically attack each backup failsafe as it comes online. For comparison, it's a bit like saying taking out power to a hospital is easy. All you have to do is kill the mains power at the transformer. Then while it's switching to the backup substation, short circuit that. Then when the generator starts spooling up, you kill the transfer switch. And then all you have to do is disconnect the battery room and boom, lights out. Ghislaine Maxwell knew many names, yet no one was publicly mentioned. It came out in her trial that the FBI lost a ton of the evidence taken from the Epstein Mansion raid, which included tons of DVDs, and that was just a footnote in the trial. 20th person to respond with "lost" in quotation marks wins a prize. Ah, yes, the pedos sure got lucky. What are the odds? Open bracket. 100%. Because I'm certain it was planned. Panama Papers. And now again with the Pandora Papers. And the Paradise Papers. The wife of the Church of Scientology leader, David Miscavige. Shelly Miscavige has not been seen in public since August 2007. She was reported as missing to the police at that time, but they said that she had been found and they closed the case. She has not been seen since. After 15 years of no contact or sightings, it's hard to believe she's alive. Scientology would have the resources to lock her up for that long of a period. It's certainly plausible. The Las Vegas shooting, the worst mass shooting in America's history. Dozens dead, hundreds injured. No one has any idea why this random dude stockpiled weapons and went on a mass murder spree, or why he ended when he did. We all just collectively went, I guess we'll never know, and then forgot about it. The FBI concluded the same thing. They said he had gone to a great effort to conceal his thoughts and motivations and never left behind any kind of journal, etc. Everyone wants answers, but sometimes it's no easy task to find. There's things unfortunately we'll never know. If he had documented head trauma, for example, that could be a reason for why he did what he did. But a lot of people don't like that answer. It's not satisfactory. That's why so many conspiracy theories are made. People don't get the answers they want, so they make it up. One man couldn't possibly be responsible. It was multiple shooters. It was a massive terrorist attack. That kinda BS. I can't remember exactly what the narrative was people were making up, but I hate it when people think they know more than the actual investigators. Unfortunately, he shot himself and we'll never know. Edit. Wow, thank you for the awards. In other comments I got on the subject of mental health and making it acceptable, accessible and affordable. Now obviously there is no way for us to say that if the Vegas shooter or any other mass shooter got help, that it could have prevented the shooting. It's complicated and we don't have the answers for it, but it's a good start. Along with sensible gun control would be good as well. Fortunately, culture is beginning to shift, so it's a good start. Also, to the YouTube internet investigators down there chiming off, I will not acknowledge you further than this, unless you physically investigated the shooter's room and home. Sat through the hours of hotel video footage, personally interviewed friends and family acquainted with the shooter, and combed through the mountain of background information that investigators did, or are an expert with a degree in physics and understands how sound travels. You have absolutely zero truth behind your claims. You are simply just rehearsing a script from a terrible writer. That is all. $128 billion went missing in my country. It is talked about for about 3 months here. Edit. It's Turkey. $500 billion. South Africa. Borrowed from the IMF for COVID. It evaporated. It will never be seen again. But I bet the taxpayers are gonna have to pay it back. South African here. Sad part is, nobody is being held accountable. The rich have gotten richer, i.e., government officials, and the poor have gotten poorer, and the middle class of 7 million people are left footing the bill through their taxes to pay for the remaining 40-odd million people. It's just not sustainable. Beyoncé sang at a private concert for the Gaddafi family in 2008. The only reason why I know this is because it was a footnote in a sociology book about the power dynamics in government-neglected regions. Mariah Carey, Lionel Richie, and Usher with her too. Mariah Carey will do anything for those megabucks, shady lady. The Phoenix Lights. My whole immediate family and tons of people on the street we lived on saw the aircraft come overhead. We all stood there speechless and terrified until it passed, then the whole block freaked out. Nobody will ever convince me it was flares. We all saw the outline and structure of the craft clearly. It was so big and slow, it was amazing it was staying in the air. My hair still stands on end even thinking about it right now. I know absolutely nothing about this. Thanks for the interesting ad. Afterwards, the governor held a press conference saying they were going to reveal who was responsible. During the press conference, he brought out a guy dressed in an alien costume and proceeded to make fun of all the eyewitnesses. They did everything they could to gaslight the whole city into thinking they didn't see anything. Several nuclear weapons the US DoD straight up lost. If I recall correctly, they're highly confident that they were lost at sea and are rusting away harmlessly at the bottom of the ocean. However, I also remember reading that the Soviet Union lost track of a few during the collapse and we genuinely have no idea where they could be. So that's fun. I mean, it's not nuclear, but unexploded bombs are the reason they are worried about cluster bombing used by Russia, because way less than 75% actually detonate. Congress being able to insider trade legally. Yeah, I've heard of this, but I got little idea about it. Is there a video or article that can explain this well? Edit. So much information on here. Thank you so much, everyone. Thankfully I am on my day off, so I am gonna spend my day reading about all of this. Here's how it works. Member of Congress buys stock in Tesla and other EV makers. The next day they pass a bill to give EV makers $500 billion in incentives. Stock prices skyrocket. Congressperson profits. Robinhood shutting off the buy button to stop GameStop's price from climbing. Jon Stewart just did a podcast and TV episode on it, and HBO just came out with a show about this. I was thinking more about how Robinhood's shitty customer service and general practices led to a 17-year-old committing suicide when he was erroneously told he owed someone a few $100,000 and no one from the app responded to all his panicked messages and calls. Then after he died, Robinhood sent him a message saying, "Oh, yep, computing accounting error. Our bad. LOL." The mysterious circumstances surrounding the death of Casey Kasem, the original voice of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Edit. Did not expect this comment to blow up like this. Love the discussion this has generated. Quite a few people have pointed out that Casey Kasem was better known for his work in his radio Top 40 and later Top 20 countdown show. I omitted this because I didn't think it would be as relevant to international or younger readers, since Casey's last recording on that program was nearly 20 years ago. But if you are too young to remember hearing him on Sunday radio programs, please find them on YouTube, because they were a real treat. https://en Wikipedia. Org Wiki. Casey Kasem illness and death. What a sad ending. It sounds like his wife just wanted him out of the picture and was willing to hide him from the rest of the family who loved him in his last days. Looks like I found my 3 AM rabbit hole, haha. Identifying all the rich men who participated in Jeffrey Epstein's island. The anthrax attacks straight after 9/11, seemingly unconnected and no one was ever charged. From memory, largely forgotten. There was a guy that became the #1 suspect, but then he killed himself. So no one was charged and it was all hung on this guy. The attacks were scary enough, but the investigation and resulting suicide are just plain crazy. Look up Bruce Edwards Ivins. Such a sad story. I was 10 when this happened and my father was a letter carrier with USPS. This was so scary to me. I remember begging my dad to quit. They all wore gloves and masks, but the mail must be delivered, so there was no break-in service. Then just one day they stopped wearing gloves and masks, and he said that everything was okay. I asked if the guy who did it was in jail, and when he said no, I pleaded with him to still wear the gloves. I don't think he did, though. I had so many nightmares I never told my parents about, and I still have them every couple of years. Sometimes when I bring this event up to people my age, they don't even remember what I'm talking about. It's crazy how one day we all just dropped it. The Phoenix 2015 freeway shooter. The only suspect was clear and so far no updates. There were reports of copycats or perhaps paranoia. For example, small rock hitting window and people mistaking it for a gunshot in other states that year, but those two came and went. We had the same issue on Klein Avenue in Northwest Indiana in 2006. Went on for a few weeks and then stopped. Must have been small caliber or a pellet gun. Kind of random, but last summer it got to be 50 degrees Celsius in Greater Vancouver, BC. Highest recorded temperature in Canada ever. And the next day the city of Lytton burned down. It was a phenomenon called a heat dome. It was really scary because no one ever thought it could get that hot here. And a ton of people died because only about 60% of places had AC. It was one of the scariest things I've ever been through. No one talks about it at all anymore, and that is terrifying to me. Edit. I have been reminded numerous times that Lytton is not Greater Vancouver. Temps in Greater Van were measured in the mid-40s, but with humidity it felt more like 50. I stand corrected. Extreme weather nonetheless, especially as many places like kitchens and warehouses do not have AC and temps in those places skyrocketed. My townhouse in South Surrey measured in the upper 40s on the top floor. I also have had several people tell me that this is still discussed by people in their lives. I was just stating that I don't hear of it at all. Personally. Second edit. There is literally a story about the heat dome Lytton on Global News today. LOL. There were a bunch of reports about mass aquatic life deaths too. That the stench of rot anywhere near the water was unbearable. That summer prompted us to finally buy an air conditioner. Because I'll bet you, 3 months or so from now, it'll happen again. That is crazy. I live in the deep south of US and it doesn't even get that hot here. Man in gimp suit terrorizing villagers. He's back again. Describing her attack, she said the man was fully covered in the suit and was coming towards me and was touching his groin, grunting and breathing heavy in the latest reported incident. A couple claimed they were watching TV when they noticed a masked man lying in their garden watching them through the French doors. Duck that guy, even though he hasn't technically hurt anyone yet. That shit's not funny at all. I think my heart might literally explode if I experienced something like that IRL. Not ducking cool, man. I've got older children and even my kids are saying it's the gimp man again. I'm crying. The financial panic of 2008 was triggered by $550 billion drawdown of money market accounts in the USA about 11 AM on Thursday the 15th of September, 2008. It was an electronic run on the banks. Had they not closed down the money market accounts immediately, the Treasury estimated that by 2 PM that afternoon, $5 trillion would have been withdrawn and the entire economy of the United States would have collapsed. And within 24 hours the world economy would have collapsed. Who did the initial $550 billion drawdown? This info was put in the memory hole, and the press does not discuss it. The Wikipedia article Global Financial Crisis in September 2008 has only the following sentence. By the morning of the 18th of September, money market sell orders from institutional investors totaled $5 trillion. Out of a total market capitalization of $4 trillion, but a $105 billion liquidity injection from the Federal Reserve averted an immediate collapse. 22. 23. Here are the quoted sources. 22. Gray, Michael. Almost Armageddon. Markets were 500 trades from a meltdown. The 21st of September, 2008. New York Post. 23. House Representative Cam Jorsky about the $550 billion run on the banks in 2 hours during September 2008. The US economy was almost a circuit city. We'd have Spirit Halloween taking residence in the White House in order to run America's corpse. The floods on the east coast of Australia super recently. We experience 1,000 milliliters of rain in less than a day. Whole towns have been wiped out. There are landslides and people are still missing. There are no supplies, no food, no fuel, no electricity and no water. They are still finding bodies. And there are still people stranded on cliff faces and mountains that could collapse any minute. If you drive through Lismore NSW right now, everyone's belongings are all in piles larger than the houses on the street. There is sewage and toxic waste covering thousands of square meters. Civilians have had to rescue people from bridges, off roofs and off mountains, risking their lives while suffering their losses to save others that are in a worse position. Thousands of civilians have been donating their own money, time and resources to help those in need. Our government has done nothing and is shadow banning anyone speaking out on social media. The newspapers aren't covering it even though this is the worst natural disaster Australia has experienced in decades. Deaths are going unreported and the media is not covering anything. People have been screaming for the army and other qualified professionals to help. They have been begging to declare a state of emergency. It's taken 6 days for our Prime Minister to speak on this. And today he posted on Instagram some very staged images of the military helping. These photos show the army in clean clothes, pretending to do tasks and pretending to help. The army was literally instructed to go down there, Get some pictures and leave. People literally have been taking photos of them getting photos done with ring lights and other professional lighting equipment. When civilians asked for their help, they said that's not our duty and went back to scrolling on their phones. It's a disgusting response from our government, and probably the most blatant sweep under the rug I've ever seen. I understand you have an election coming in May. I'm in Canada. Our leading national paper carried an article on it that suggests your PM is slowly acknowledging the frustration. It's amazing to me this could happen without broader awareness. What a news cycle. Karl Malone, decorated basketball player, raped a 13-year-old girl, disowned the child, impregnated a 17-year-old girl, disowned the twins, sexually and racially harassed Vanessa Bryant, Kobe's wife. Utah Jazz builds a statue celebrating and commemorating him. https://www.thedailybeast.com NBA legend Karl Malone's disturbing rape and harassment past. The family of the 13-year-old was so poor that they didn't care and viewed it all as a blessing. Same for the town, including the church. The kid ended up playing in the NFL, and when the kid was 18, Malone refused to have a relationship with him. Definitely a piece of shit. This is who Jimmy Kimmel did blackface of Edit. Comment below mentions that he has since reconciled with his kids and grandkids. Now he just used to be a piece of shit. Boris Johnson locked down parties. He was on the verge of being forced out of office and then, oh, there's a war now, we've got other stuff to worry about. His illegal shenanigans are being swept under, unlike his hair. Guards in a prison melted a mentally disabled prisoner's skin off with hot water. Darren Rainey. They say his death was accidental, stemming from his heart problems. What's a good trigger to someone with heart problems? Being locked in a boiling shower. There's no way they can admit that his body was covered in third-degree burns and then say it was accidental in the same breath. It makes me sick to my stomach knowing what they did to him and that so many other people face the same treatment. Ghislaine Maxwell's trial where she got convicted of selling children to nobody. The metric shit ton of COVID relief money that was given to companies that was misappropriated and will never be paid back, and is only marginally being investigated. So it's all on the US taxpayers. Nobody seemed to remember Ukrainian passenger flight being shot down by Iranian government last year. I think because experts determined exactly what happened within a couple of days, despite the Iranian government's poor initial attempt to cover it up. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.